All right, welcome into 305 guys here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. We'll talk Heat today. A couple comments that we definitely will get to here on 305 guys. We're here
Coming
every
in hot
Tuesday.
already.
Yeah, I know. They're throwing me the wolves. Every Tuesday and Thursday typically, but we didn't go yesterday, so we're going today. It's Wednesday, so I wouldn't say this is a bonus episode. We just changed day. We are sponsored here by our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down $5. You get $50 to play right away. PrizePicks.com, the official fantasy partner of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and 5 on the Floor and 305 guys. Here's the thing about this: 30 teams play tonight, so 15 games. 30 teams. It's all on the board. I'm sure they'll offer a discount later today. Make sure you're using the code 5. That keeps us going. Also, you'll get the $50 to play. We appreciate it. We had 20 new signups on Super Bowl Sunday, so we appreciate everybody who jumped in on that. But again, use the code 5 FIVE, and you don't have to just play this. You can play Four Nations is on there as well. I think Sweden's playing Canada tonight. We've got our guy Alex Baumgartner freezing his butt off up in Montreal right now. So check it out. Prize Picks. Use the code FIVE. And yes, it is legal in the state of Florida. All right, one of the games that you can play today, Alex, if you'd like to, is the Miami Heat at Oklahoma City Thunder. I wish there was a prop that said, will the Heat score more than 79.5 points? I might play the under.
I might take
Did
the
you?
under as well.
Yeah, I was at the arena the other night. Alex, did you get a chance to watch it?
Sadly, yes. They set basketball back about 30 years. It reminded me of, watching some of the Pat Riley coach teams, but that was back when, both teams would score around 85 points, not just, the losing team. It reminded me a little bit of that. And yeah, obviously, the team is being swept by illness right now, although it's not like the offensive ratings were through the roof when Tyler Hero doesn't have the stomach bug and everything like that. You're integrating 3 new players, but that was really, really tough to watch. Ethan.
Yeah, it was. And, there was that open where, they got off to a pretty decent start, particularly on the defense. Yeah. And then something happened. And so we acknowledged what happened on 5 on the Floor. And you know what? Let's put this one up. This is from Razor Wolf. I wish you guys would grow a pair of and ask Spo in his face, Spo, why he keeps giving Rozier minutes. This guy's unplayable. Spo, he's unplayable. Until when is enough? Just ask him. The fans deserve to know. All right, let's start here. And this one comes in. Punt Rozier to the Sun. They tried to punt him to the Suns, but the Suns asked for everything else.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm sure if he was tradable, they probably would have traded him before the deadline like they did a certain malcontent.
Yeah, Alex, just to this point, we were speaking about my stolen car before the show. My car was stolen on Thursday from Fort Lauderdale, somehow ended up in Tamarack, and they ended up catching the guy in Allapattah in West Miami. And I would just say this: if I could trade in my car as it is right now, I would. But most people probably wouldn't want it with what this dude left in my car. So, and what he left of my car. So, Terry Rozier is my car right now. If they could have traded him, they would have. Yeah. They're going into an offseason now where he's going to be an expiring contract, and it appears that they might deal with it then. But I want to get back to this question from Razor Wolf because I think it's reasonable. You and I have both been in media here a long time. Let me just kind of explain to how this works. First thing, I've known Spo since 1996. Okay, I've known him since I was 23 and he was 26. And I also know how you get information out of Spo that's useful. It's not by asking him questions in press conferences. I'm sorry. And it's not about being afraid of him. It's how to do your job in an effective way. He's not going to ever throw a player under the bus. He's not going to tell you the truth to your face. He's just not. The way to get information from Spo, sometimes it's a month later, but is on the side at a practice where he kind of downloads everything to you. Okay. These press conferences with him are useless. They have been for a long time. Pat would sometimes say something. Spo's not going to say it. I understand that the fans want to hear their views represented. I can tell you the organization is more likely to respond to because I know that the majority of the front office listens to 5 on the Floor. They're more likely to respond to a podcast that is done detailing the statistical deficiencies of Terry Rozier, some of which they may not be aware of because if they're not involved in the day-to-day, or to what's posted on social media about that, than they are to a question to Eric Spoelstra in a press conference. I'm just telling you that's just how this works. Okay, so for those who don't understand, and Tip is asking, so why not ask him on the side? Well, for me personally, they haven't practiced a lot. They've had 2 practices. I couldn't make it to those practices. They used to practice all the time on off days, and that was the time to get him, or when you're on the road, and I don't travel with them. So I can tell you, Ira has asked the question because he is with the team. Anthony's asked it in a variety of different ways. You're not going to get the answer that you're looking for from him. He's not going to tell you. He's not going to tell us. He's not going to tell you. All we can do is continue to point out that Terry Rozier has been problematic. Al, let me, and then at some point he'll make a decision not to play him. But Alex, to your extent, we'll get to the new players in a second. How problematic do you think Terry Rozier has been?
Oh, I mean, incredibly problematic. I mean, the statistical deficiencies no limits for Terry right now, and quite frankly, I can't. I mean, I can sympathize with the person who asked that question because I certainly can't understand why he's 5th in the team in minutes right now. Like that doesn't seem clear to me. I mean, my guess would be, and I'm not claiming I know better than Spo. I certainly don't. Like Spo must feel like there's a reason why he has to keep giving Terry top 5 minutes. I mean, this is a player he's kind of stuck with and kind of sidled with. But yeah, I mean, Ethan, incredibly problematic. I mean, on both ends of the floor, he takes the Heat completely out of their flow. I mean, it's really tough to watch.
Well, and you look at the numbers right now, and we pointed out these numbers today on Twitter, and we just did a podcast on this. In his minutes, they played about the same number of minutes with him on or off, okay, because he's missed a couple games, but more with him on than off, which is the problem. In his minutes, they are a minus 5.0 per 100 possessions. When he's off the floor, they're a plus 3.2. So that's an 8-point swing. This team is not good enough to overcome an 8-point swing. And if you add to that the fact that the other guards who have played in some of his minutes this year, Drew Smith plus 6 when he was on the floor, Alec Burks plus 6, Pelle Larsson plus 4.5. So this is not a case of, well, it's bad with all of them. It's bad with one of them. So I'm with the fans at this point that there needs to be another solution to this. You're not recouping your value with him. I don't even think that's what they're trying to do. I think Spo is legitimately trying to find offense. Like, I really do. Like, they can't trade him now anyway until the end of the offseason. Yeah. And Tiff mentions that 5-0 when Terry doesn't play.
Hey.
I mean, I think that's where it's at. But I think we have to look beyond it to a certain extent. Again, I'm not diminishing it. We just literally just did a 30-minute podcast. It's up on the 5 on the Floor feed about Rozier specifically. My suggestion is you try a little bit more Burks or Larsson for now, and then eventually because again, your position in the standings is not going to change that much. The teams that are way below them are not going to catch them, and they're not going to catch the teams that are above them. So there's going to be somewhere between 6 and 10, one way or the other. Okay, at this stage, to me, at a certain point, you pivot, you play Isaiah Stevens, you play Josh Christopher, and you see what you have in some of the young guys. But I think for now, a little bit more of the current roster ball handling, and then you mix in Burks and also Larsson, and I think you just take Terry's minutes away. Now, Davion Mitchell is the solution as the starter, but not as a 40-minute player. He's never really been that. So they have to find the ball handling from somewhere else. But let's get to the rest of this, because I think that the key point is this. The Heat, with their trade of Jimmy, who obviously is flourishing, at least with free throws and everything else in Golden State. He seems to have fit pretty well. They haven't played, but Milwaukee's not bad. Chicago beat the Heat recently.
And on that for a second, because I see a lot of Heat fans reacting to that. It's like, first of all, I'm not surprised. I mean, you talk about, he's at least temporarily found his joy again, right? He wanted a change of scenery. And of course, you get traded to a new spot, and it was one of the most high-profile trades in years, given all the drama that led up to it with Jimmy. Of course, you're going to be motivated. Of course, you're going to be engaged. And he's as healthy right now as he's been probably in years because of all the time off he got with the multiple suspensions down here. So it's like, all right, with Jimmy, and I don't care unless I guess I'm. In a weird way, I'm kind of happy for him that he's doing well, because it's also not our problem anymore, because there were issues down here that don't exist over there. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so he's healthy right now. What happens when the missed games and the various injuries start to creep in? Because that's going to happen for him there at some point. But I'm
Well,
not surprised to see him off to a good start there.
no, I'm not either, because he always played well here when he had time off, and he's had a lot
Yeah.
of time off, and he's now playing with the greatest gravity uh, player in NBA history. And so he's racking up free throws. He's smart. He knows how to play. And so he's going where he knows he's going to get cheap, easy points, and is working. And look, they're going to be competing to get out of the play-in. They're in the mix with a bunch of teams that have troubles of one form or another. The Suns, the Mavs, the Kings, those are the teams they're competing with. And they might get up as high as 7, potentially. There's a shot of that. So I'm not surprised it's gone fairly well for him so far. This is a long game. The Heat are playing the long game here. They had to make a move. And I think as we talk about the current team, again, Rozier is a problem, and it is a problem in terms of the way I think it's submarining Nico off the bench, which I see that comment. I agree with that comment. The ball needs to be in Jovic's hands more so he can develop. But I think that the bigger question is, with this particular build, when we finally see Tyler, and I know he's questionable for tonight, I haven't seen a new report on it. Are they going to have enough offense with the group that they have going forward regardless? And this was already an offensively challenged group. They have not been good offensively since Bam and Ware have been starting together. And I know the majority of fans wanted this. I'm not saying you abandon it. They have to see what it looks like. Bam has played better since Ware has been in the starting lineup, but the overall offensive results are worse. They're worse than they were even when Jimmy missed time prior to this. Offensively, they are not good with Bam and Ware together in the starting lineup. And I don't know necessarily that Wiggins, who I'll say this, I've watched him some obviously over the years. I watched him in the finals run with Golden State. He's not a great ball handler, and so that's one of those things that he's going to get you 17. He's going to play a lot the way Luol Deng played for them, where he kind of had that very strong season where he had 17 to 19 consistently defended. But it's like you didn't want Lou overdoing the offensive initiation, and I kind of feel the same way with Wiggins. So, look, this is going to be Tyler Hero's offense because he won't lean into Duncan. And so much of this is on Tyler. And I just wonder, is he going to get to the end of the season healthy? Is he going to get to the end of the season where basically everybody's taking him out of his game? And Aaron Andrews says this, and I agree with it. This build feels like they have a lot of nice young players until the next reasonable star is available. They'll have to decide who's got to go and who they want to keep and complement that star. I agree with that. I think that's exactly where we're at. I think this is an evaluation period where they knew we're probably going to make the play-in with or without Jimmy. And so whatever spot we get into playing, if we get a playoff series, great. But this is a chance to evaluate, basically Ware, Jovic, Jaquez, which he's been a bad evaluation so far this season, Larson, Keyshawn Johnson, maybe. Like I said, you could look at Isaiah Stevens or at Josh Christopher. Is Davion Mitchell a long-term rotation piece? I don't think he's a long-term starter. That's what we're looking at, Donno. And then it's like, okay, then you take those pieces and you're like, all right, who's the star? The star that makes the most sense to me right now is to see if things implode in Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's the one that looks like if you plugged him in, even if you subtract 2 or 3 pieces, if you plugged him into this group, okay, that's where your offense is coming from. Again, provided that you're able to keep Tyler to pair with him in the backcourt. So that's kind of where it's at. But I want to get your impressions of where you think the upside of this build would be. Before we do, want to get to a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Big Miami Heat fan, our friend Danny over at All Pro Construction Builders. All Pro Construction Builders specialize in impact windows and door installations. We know it's only February, but hurricane season is always around the corner. A state-certified licensed and insured general contractor, All Pro Construction Builders services Miami-Dade, Monroe, and Broward counties. They only use top-quality products locally made, and they're family-owned and operated. This is a real hometown company. 305-484-4429. That's 305 484-4429. You'll get a free estimate. They'll help you protect your home in less than 8 weeks. And if you mention 5 Reasons, 305 guys, 5 on the floor, you get a 5% discount. So check it out. Danny, 305-484-4429. What do you think? Like in terms of where they're going, it feels like you're stuck sort of in offensive mediocrity until they add the next star. But do you think they're putting together a group, Alex, that's good enough to get the next star?
Yeah, I look at this as a group of a lot of serviceable second and third options and a serviceable supporting cast. And in the opinion of most Miami Heat fans, obviously the stock for Tyler Hero has gone way up this year, but I don't view him as a legitimate number one option on a championship team. Like I'm probably not going to ever get there with him, right? I want him to be, the co-star or the sidekick from a great player, and obviously we all hope that could still be Jimmy. But Jimmy lost his joy in Miami, and with and I think with the trade finally going down last week, to me it was mostly a sense of relief. Obviously for a couple of days our interest was piqued in the possibility of Kevin Durant. And then, Levitard talked about how that was never even close because they were asking for Miami's entire team, for that trade.
Right.
So we didn't see that one materialize, nor should it have materialized on those terms. And maybe this is someone the Heat might even be able to still look to get in the future if we want to see Riley maybe miss on him for the fifth or sixth time with the way that it's gone in recent years. But no, I think you're absolutely, you need to go whale hunting, because I think the upside for this team is some good second, third options and so on. You still have that Heat culture on this team where these guys are going to work hard, play hard, and most of them are probably better wearing a Heat jersey than they would be anywhere else because of all the work. And I still believe in Spo. I know there's been reasons to question some of Spo's decisions this year, but I still think he's one of the very best, if not the very best in the NBA. And so, yeah, I think that there's foundations here, Ethan, but I think the Heat basically are what their standings say that they are right now, and that's probably a play-in team that's going to need to overachieve to actually, win a proper playoff series when it's all said and done. I look at this as a kind of a bridge build right now.
Yeah.
We're obviously by necessity, we're moving on from the Jimmy build because Jimmy is no longer
Right.
part of that. But now, we're hoping Captain Pat can go whale hunting again, this coming off season, because I don't think that this team as constructive is going to go anywhere. I think it's the type of team that if they win, a first round playoff series after coming through the play in, you'd say that's probably their ceiling. And I like some of the pieces, don't get me wrong. And I do enjoy
So I think
watching, Kalel and Bam play together, even if the offensive upside hasn't been there. But yeah, I mean, we're still, as we seem to have been for a long time now, we're a superstar away.
Yeah, I think so. It's like they talk about it. It's like you keep trying to get one of those guys until you get one of those guys. And I know that the Heat don't think they've tried hard enough. I can tell you that Levitard's report is consistent with what I'd heard about Durant, that Phoenix asked for everything. Miami wasn't willing to give up very much, and there was no point in trying to meet in the middle because they were so far apart. I think that people are saying that this is the most mid Miami team ever, though. I don't think that's quite fair. I think you're forgetting teams where Josh Richardson was the leading scorer on the team. Or Rodney Magruder was playing heavy minutes. Like they've had some mid teams. Like I mean, the year that Dwayne came back, or the season after that, like it got obscured how mid that team was because all anybody cared about was Dwayne in the Last Dance. They've had some mid teams. I don't like them being in the middle like this, but the problem is they won't ever throttle it all the way down. They're not good at the tanking part. They're not going to do it, and Spo's going to force them to compete in defense, so that's not going to allow for it. So I don't think that they're in a permanently mid state. I don't. I think other times it has been harder to dig out than where they're at now. They recouped an asset. They've drafted very well over the past few years on the whole. Okay, you can talk about a mistake or two, but it looks like Jovic were good picks. Hawkins has taken a step back this year. They have some other young developmental players that I like. I think Keyshawn Johnson is going to become a rotation player for them before too long. I think they think so too. They're just kind of been deferring more to Highsmith and to others right now. So I don't think they're in this permanent mid state. I think, but I also don't think they have the player to lead this. So I think that's where I'm with fans. I don't think Bam and this is, to me, I'm not calling this the Bam Tyler build. Like when people call it that, this is the build of whatever player they're going to ultimately get or not get
I call this
to
the
lead it.
post Jimmy build. We're no longer in the Jimmy build. I call this the
Mm.
post Jimmy pre whoever build. Whoever being the next big name they bring in.
I think that's where we're at. And I think, the Jimmy build was, look, Bam was here before Jimmy, as was Tyler. but it was the Jimmy build because he brought it in. I think that's the state that we're in right now. I see Winter says we need to get KD. They're going to make an effort to get KD. We'll just see how many pieces that they have to give up at that point. But Carl, I am buying. I disagree with this. But they have consistently drafted players at levels lower than what their draft spot should have been. And by that I mean, in other words, they've gotten a player that should have been drafted higher. The one example is Maxey and Precious, and I'm sorry, like that. Every team has dozens of those examples. The Heat have a couple. They've got Winslow and Booker. You got to go back to 2015. And if Winslow hadn't fallen to them, they would have taken Booker. It's an unfortunate situation. Okay, they tried to repeat the success they had with Karan falling to them at 10. The Precious Maxey thing, Precious went where he was supposed to go. He has played like the 20th pick in that draft. Maxey and Bane went later. 20 other teams or 19 other teams passed on Maxey. So and it was not a clutch thing as much as people think. They decided to take a player to kind of complement, they thought complement and back up Bam. It didn't work out for them. Okay. So they do make some mistakes. But I mean, if we're going back to 2015, we're in 2025. Okay. If we're going to cite the Winslow thing at this point, I think they've proven they can draft reasonably well. But Alex, before we close here, we'll have more tonight. Playback.tv/5RSN. We'll be on there tonight. Also a post-game podcast. What is the thing you want to see? Give me something specific. The thing you want to see, and we'll close between now and the end of the season.
I always get excited about the newest piece and the relatively big names. So I would really like to see Andrew Wiggins continue to integrate and to, I don't look at him. He doesn't have, the offensive upside that, Jimmy Butler has. Like, this is not a true Jimmy replacement, but Wiggins is a guy who I'm a little bit excited that he's now a member of the Miami Heat. I love that he's wearing number 22, by the way. So I want to see him continue to integrate and make an impact on both ends. I mean, we've already seen a taste of it on defense. I would like to see more of an impact on offense, and I would like to continue to see Tyler Hero blossom this year. And you mentioned something earlier that piqued my interest, right? The idea of Tyler, who's not only he's been a contributor throughout the early stages, 2/3 or so into this regular season, but I would like to see him have, a healthy playoff quote unquote run, however that lasts, and to really finish the job this season. So those are some of the things that I look at. And again, what I feel like is kind of a bridge period in Miami Heat basketball right now.
I agree with you. I think this is a brill. They are starting they're going to be starting a new build. They just don't know what it is yet. I feel like that's where I'm at without scrolling it all the way back to the beginning. All right, appreciate everybody for joining here today. People are asking about Luka. Others, I have plenty of time for that. Seems to be going okay for him in LA so far. And yes, Draymond glazing Jimmy on his podcast again. Give that time. Give that time. Alex, appreciate it. All Pro Construction Builders, Prize Picks. Use the code 5FIVE. Check out the podcast. We just Alex Lino and I just devoted 28 minutes to Terry Rozier, and unfortunately, I feel like if his stomach allows him, that's how many minutes Eric Spoelstra is going to play him tonight. Anyway, in spite of that, everybody have a good evening.